Welcome to Broadstairs Life, where I speak with the people who make Broadstairs such a special place. Welcome to Broadstairs Life. Today I'm sat here with Amelie and Angel. You're both sixth formers from Dane Court School, and you started a community campaign.
Yeah.
So I think the easiest thing is, tell us all about it. Over to you.
So we had a week's work experience through school with Polly Billington, our local MP, and they prompted us to start a campaign. And initially we talked through a lot of different topics, I think, of what the campaign could have been. We actually started with something completely different, but we thought as young people our campaign needs to be centred around and focused around really young people in the area and things that we've experienced and seen with our friends and people that we know firsthand.
So a major part of our campaign is the antisocial behaviour in Broadstairs. So we know there was a lot of attacks and things like that in Broadstairs, especially during the summer months. So as part of what we're trying to do with the campaign is to try and get more funding to youth provisions in the local area to ensure, because I think a lot of crime begins when people are bored. So I think it's important to be able to give people a community hub so they can sort of go to places and have an outlet, so when they're not bored they don't resort to crime, but instead they sort of use that energy more productively.
Yeah, I completely agree. We also came across a statistic while we were doing our research that proved that 14%, it was actually that young people 14% less likely to go into youth crime and antisocial behaviour and things like that if they had sufficient access to youth provisions. But what we also found was, because of the priorities of KCC, Kent has experienced county-wide cuts to youth provisions, which is the opposite of what we really wanted to see with our campaign. And it actually caused a lot of these provisions to close down or run on very minimal funds. And Pie Factory Music in Ramsgate, we did a lot with them. Zoe was really, really helpful, really supportive. We presented to her, she helped us out with our presentation to Polly, and they were a huge success story in this, but there were a lot of other clubs that didn't manage to do what they did, and a lot of their young people were then out of a place to go.
And then I think over time as well, our campaign was able to develop, because where we also worked with schools to try and get more community funding, we also tried to talk about political literacy in regards to young people, because we know there's no citizenship studies. And I know myself, sort of talking to my friends, a lot of them are like, oh, I support the Liberal Democrats. And I'm like, well, why? And then they're like, because they're the most liberal party. And I'm like, well, actually, the most liberal party, or I think left wing at least, is the Green Party. So I think it's important that young people who might be getting the vote at 16 are aware of the different political parties and what they stand for and their policy.
Yeah, and just to talk through the people that we have presented to, we've met with a lot of local councillors such as Joanne Bright, Mike Garner, the Mayor of Broadstairs, and then also the Mayor of Margate and the Mayor of Ramsgate. And we also then presented to Broadstairs Town Council, who Mike actually gave us the opportunity to do that, which was really nice. And then we did then also get in through Katie, Mayor of Margate, to the Thanet Head Teachers Network, and that was where we spoke a bit more about what Amelie said about the political literacy element of it, which was something I'd started within our school, but I think now other schools have reached out to us saying, you know, actually we want to see it in our school too, which was good, because I think there's a link there between crime and political literacy as well, which is not as obvious, but there are certain things to say when citizenship isn't taught as well in schools, that creates a gap in knowledge of young people essentially, and the better educated that we can make our young people, the less likely they are to fall into things like county lines or just groups that aren't going to give them the best future. And Thanet is already known for having these awful NEETs, which we really want to be making better, not worse.
And I think as well, in the age of sort of social media, a lot of young people are being exposed to political extremism, and we sort of hear quite harmful agendas on social media, and a lot of them offer quick solutions to really complex problems. And I think this is an example of why we do need political literacy. We need people to understand at least basically economics, to understand that there are trade-offs to every policy. It's not as simple as tax the rich or get rid of all the immigrants. These issues are complex and they need complex solutions, and we need to tell young people that this is important for them to understand. They need to have a grasp of Parliament as well, because I mean I've been doing political research as well as part of my coursework, and young people just have no idea about Parliament and how it works. Absolutely shocking statistics in regards to that, and we think when young people are going to be voting, when they're going to be getting involved in the community, when it's going to be even more difficult to buy a house now than ever, it's important they know how politics affects them directly, I think.
Yeah, so we took a few different strands with our campaign. We had the community piece where we were sort of advocating for more things to go on, and also those things to then be communicated directly to our young people, because there was a communication barrier between schools and councillors and local projects. There were things going on that just weren't reaching us, and then there were things that might have been nice to have on that we also came up with. And then we had the educational piece, which was, along with the political literacy that Amelie's expanded on, it was also about educating people around these issues of crime, drugs, alcohol, all of these things with a more accurate and sensitive approach to it, I would say. Because the issue is right now we have impersonal slideshows which have Bob and Tina who are going down to Broadstairs Beach, and Tina's pressuring Bob to have a drink and cause some antisocial behaviour, but none of those children sitting there in that classroom care or are paying any attention, frankly, to that slideshow. Whereas we've had guest speakers come in who have spoken about their own personal experiences, and that's actually had a lot more of an impact, I think, on everybody, because it's real.
That's well, you just mentioned personal experiences.
Yeah.
Have you had personal experiences of what you're trying to go through, or what you're trying to develop?
So we haven't had personal experiences in that we're not involved in crime, but
I should hope not.
But we definitely know people who are involved in county lines, who everyone knows people in our schools who deal drugs, and it's just like a known thing that's not actually addressed.
But
It's
really
something
sad,
in every
isn't it?
school.
And obviously being in a grammar school as well, a lot of these people are really bright and have great futures ahead of them, and actually they're wasting it away dealing drugs. And I think that's kind of why me and Angel approach the issue, because we're like, we know people who potentially could go really far career-wise, and you don't want them to sort of get caught up with the police and things like that. So I think it's an issue as well that a lot of, not shaming teachers because they've got a lot on their plates, but it's sort of a known thing that's never really addressed. It's sort of just, let's teach them and get them out of here. And it's like, actually, instead of just doing a slideshow, doing your responsibility and calling it a day, let's think about how we can really home it into young people. That crime's really bad, and it's going to really personally affect you if you get involved in it. So again, diving in on guest speakers, we had a woman who came in and talked about her son who died due to drunk driving, and there were people there who I know personally are involved in antisocial behaviour, and they ended up crying. And these are sort of the typically misbehaved pupils who maybe are written off in the education system. And I think it was really interesting because I think they realised that in that moment, listening to her, that, oh my God, this isn't just a slideshow, this is a reality. Yeah. And I think that's the point with guest speakers. We need to make it clear that this is a big issue and this is serious and this does affect you.
So how do you see your campaign developing?
So we've sort of gone down multiple routes with our campaign, I'd say. I mean, it definitely started being surrounding youth crime, and although that's definitely still a major part of it, another aspect is now political literacy, because me and Angel, we both studied politics, and we absolutely love it, and we sort of thought when presenting to the head teachers meeting, we thought, okay, we could maybe sneak this in there. About political literacy as well, because we think
the school are behind you on this, aren't they?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you find that they're actually pushing you to really do this?
Yeah, so recently they actually made an Instagram post
Oh, really? What
about
about
the
you doing?
campaign. Yeah, so when we presented to the Head Teachers Network, I think a couple of our teachers were there and they were just really impressed, I guess.
Ooh.
And they sort of went, we want to advertise it, we want to put it all over social. So that was nice to see the school.
Because that's why social media is good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is.
Because you can get things right out there, which normally would be really difficult.
I also think I've been approaching head of years, so head of year 9, head of year 7, etc., to try and say, hey, can some of our students, year 12 students, come in and give you an assembly about UK politics? And they've been very receptive. They've gone, yeah, of course you can. So that's now something that's going on as well.
Are you going to other schools?
So we hope to go to Royal Harbour Academy and sort of implementing a mentoring programme that sort of teaches young people about the different parties and their different policies and what they stand for and how their values might align to different parties and how you sort of apply them.
And what about more schools within Broadstairs?
Yeah,
we've
really,
got a lot of schools here.
Yeah.
The really good response we had was from the head teacher of Leyland Gap, and he's already asked for the presentation to be shared with him, and he said, you know, we can work something out where you two are involved in helping this come into our school. So we have had a couple of people.
I think the difficulty with it has been the fact that during mentoring there is a PHC programme. So talking to a lot of my mentors, they need to teach us certain things. Like we need to know about drug abuse and alcohol abuse, which is really important, but again doesn't quite personalise the issue. But so when we're trying to get political engagement in, it's like, well, we've already got a set out curriculum. And
what about with the police here in Kent?
I think that's something we're planning.
We haven't explored enough yet. I think we need to definitely look to that route more. But I think one of the clear next steps we had is from our presentation to Polly, her and Claire are drafting a letter to Lisa Nandy, who's the secretary or minister of culture, sport, and those kinds of things. And she's someone that believes in the divide and deprivation between the north and the south, which of course we know that there is one, but then it's an area that's in the south, and then it's also an area that's
very
quite deprived compared to other areas of the country. So it's something that Polly's going to write to her.
As well.
There are pockets of wealth.
There are
pockets of wealth, and then areas of complete economic instability. So it's something where she's trying to invite Lisa Nandy down to see that for herself and realise it is a place really worth investing in. Our young people do have potential, they're just not maybe given the same opportunities that young people in other parts of the country are. And so Amelie and I are trying to get signatories for that letter.
In regards though to deprivation, what me and Angel found really interesting about the campaign is a lot of the time the reason people get involved in crime is actually grooming, and although that happens definitely to people who have grown up in deprivation, it actually happens to some of the people you wouldn't expect it to, and that's also
it
quite
can happen
to anyone. And I think that's interesting as well when we're looking at our own personal biases and like the biases of sort of our local community as well, because people often assume that people who come from poorer backgrounds are more inclined to get involved in crime, and actually that's not always the case.
No, it's not.
And so it's just quite interesting as well, being like, we need to roll this out in terms of the mentoring curriculum to all children. This isn't just sort of going to the worst schools and going, don't get involved in crime. We also need to be going to our better schools with maybe a more middle class demographic, because it's also equally important there as well, I think, for the children to hear about the consequences of crime.
Generally, it's important for everyone, isn't it?
I think also Amelie was the one to raise that point when we were doing our presentations to people, that actually there are people that get targeted in grammar schools as well. And the response to that was, oh, really?
Yeah.
Or, I had no idea. Where everyone was saying about the crime that comes from familial generations of crime where it gets passed down, and whilst that very much still exists, there are people, we know people in our school, in other schools that
have a really nice upbringing but just got involved in the wrong group of people.
I'm actually an ex-police officer.
Oh, are you? Yeah.
I did 30 years in the Metropolitan Police.
Wow.
So I know some of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think there's definitely sort of a new era of crime where we're in close proximity to London as well. Some of those London gangs getting involved with people here as well.
Yeah.
So that maybe previously gang culture wasn't quite as much of an issue, but I think it's really affecting Thanet at the moment as well.
Yeah, Kent has become quite a big target
hotspot
for it in recent years, which is unfortunate. But then again, it's difficult to think how you actively manage it, because there used to be stricter regulations on it. You know, the ASBOs, which I think, people didn't respond to very well. So it's really difficult to not have such a strict policing approach, but then this public multi-health agency approach.
You're aware of community payback?
No.
Community payback is where somebody may be convicted of an offence, and what they do is they say, you can do 300 hours community service, don't get paid, and you go and work it. Now, here we have a community, and it works really, really well, and I'll put you in touch with somebody after this.
Okay. That would be great,
because that really works. And down here it's working. So, you know, there are sometimes not all things go forward, they go backwards. But what you're trying to do, but you're doing it from the young person's point of view, which is quite important, because sometimes young people get forgotten, don't they?
That's definitely what we found. I think Thanet also, we found, has an older demographic where young people tend to move away from Thanet at 18 because either they're going off to university or they want to do an apprenticeship in, let's say, London, because that's where you're going to be earning.
I mean,
more.
that's what we want to do, but
so you're going to be going.
I mean, this is the thing, though. You really want to make Thanet a place that does retain a lot of young people. I think the issue is that opportunities here, jobs are very seasonal, a lot of them, for young people, particularly the ones that you can get. Once you hit the winter, it's like, you know, there aren't enough things going on, opportunities going on, and those prestigious apprenticeships, while they're definitely improving in the local area, still London is the place to be where you get offered.
I think any major city in the UK.
And those firms just aren't here yet, and we need to somehow make it a place that is attractive for those people to be.
So what's your next step on your campaign?
I think probably getting involved in the police. I think that was something we were already beginning to consider, but we were thinking, okay, we've got involved with sort of our local schools, we've got involved with like the councils and things.
Local, have you got a local businesses aware of your campaign?
More sort of community funded projects and businesses especially.
We haven't reached out to businesses yet, but it might be a good idea.
I think they would find it really interesting. Because you're trying to make people aware of the issues that are there. But through businesses, you could have another extra helping hand.
I think it's also about not only starting the conversation, but healing this reputation gap between the generations. Because I think there is a reputation that builds up about the younger generation with the older generations, and it is to say that it doesn't have to be that way. And I think if older and younger people actually got to know each other more within the community, it wouldn't be as bad as it is.
Go on.
I think another thing is about prevention instead of response. So although response is in a way an aspect of our campaign, something we really want to do is get awareness about the consequences of crime to young people really young.
That's really important.
Because I think as well, where we're sort of in year 12 and we're going to finish school in around a year, people at our age, obviously they have the capacity to change, but in many ways they've already been groomed. And they're already within a certain lifestyle, whereas year 7s, they're I suppose a lot more susceptible to influence, and you can change the route they go down. And I think response is so much when people's attitudes are set, or not set, but I guess people have been living their lives a certain way, it's a lot more difficult to change their mind. Whereas if you just don't get people's minds to be set in that sort of attitude in the first place, we can make a lot more effective change, and we can really, I think, help them go down the right route and do well in school, hopefully.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
What do your parents think of what you're doing?
My parents parents are very supportive.
Good.
Sometimes, they are often like, oh, I want to come, and they're just they really support what we want to do, which is really nice.
Yeah, I agree. My parents are like that as well. They're like, it's how many things are you doing, really? That's what they...
This just flew into my head. Have you done your presentation to the parents of the children who attend your school?
No, we haven't. We're trying to sort of spread it more widely within our school, but there's sort of limited time, and they're organising a lot of exams and things. Yeah. But it would definitely be something we want to do.
Yeah, and I think also it's very difficult to get all the parents together for something like that is a community project. Whereas
just mention wine and sandwiches. I think they'll all be there.
Yeah,
my parents would be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Parents, I think it's difficult to get them to come in, even when it's about their own children and what they're up to at school. Yeah. No, some parents are just so busy, and you can't blame them if they're working. Like,
no, it's fair because everybody's busy, aren't they?
That's
I mean, our parents both work really long hours, so you can sort of understand. But I think they would be the people to sort of get to, because again, they have a lot of influence on their children and their sort of route they go down. But I also think making sure that there's sort of not pockets of people that are all into antisocial behaviour, because they often as well pull each other into it. So that's another route, because as well, especially when you're sort of entering secondary school and you're in sort of year 7, 8, 9, you're very susceptible to what your friends are doing and what they sort of the status quo. There's also making sure that teachers are acknowledging that, okay, like these children are sort of susceptible to crime, maybe they've been caught with drugs or something, and going, okay, let's make sure that maybe a guest speaker's talking to them and we're getting early intervention to ensure that that's not the route they continue going down.
It always starts with 1 or 2 people, and then because of peer pressure and because of friend groups, it can just spiral.
And it is sort of the same friendship groups of people. You notice it, there'll be sort of like maybe 2 people in year 9, and by the time you get to year 11, there's maybe 8 of them all involved. And then you'll have, and I think it as well, I think there's such a social aspect to it, and I think that's also the part that's really difficult to try and deal with, because you can try and give people all the right routes to go down, but actually at the end of the day it's their choice. So I think that's the part me and Angel have struggled with this campaign, is actually it's great to get all the right people and the guest speakers and things like that, but there is only so much you can do from a school's point of view. So I think that's also where the community aspect's really important, because it's not necessarily trying to influence people being like, don't do this is good, or don't do this is bad, and things like that. It's just going, this is an outlet, you can go and use some of your energy, go into arts and things like that, instead of just...
That touches on what you said earlier, that there's not enough young people to do. Which I think is pretty much a problem all over the country.
Yeah, definitely.
Young people have to sort of fend for themselves, entertain themselves, go out to do something. Whereas if there was organised places to go, because they work.
Yeah, they do.
And it does work.
And when we were doing our research, I looked into other countries where they've had very similar successful programmes, and it's reflected in their crime stats around youth. And it's gone, well, if it works in other places, then I think it's a
it should
strategy
work
that should work.
And talking to my grandparents, they always talk about their community pools that they used to go to, or the different sort of youth clubs and balls, and I sort of think none of that's been offered to us. And although
that sounds so fun,
they all sound so fun. And
I can think back, and Kelly would say as well, when we were young, we used to have what they used to call Saturday morning pictures. We used to go to the cinema on Saturday morning, and everything was done around kids from 7, 8 onwards. And if you were that age, your parents drop you off. You've been there, you'll watch 3 films from the Children's Film Foundation, you should look that up. And then you also sing a song in the cinema, and everybody knew each other.
And I think we actually lack that a lot now in the community. Like, you'll see, I think because we have beaches are the place where everyone goes.
Everybody goes.
But then again, they become the biggest place of antisocial behaviour and crime and littering. And exactly, especially when everyone's starting to get off schools, like Year 11 Leavers Day or Year 13 Leavers Day. And I think that's why we see each other on the beach, and that's where the sense of community is.
What was sort of happening last year, did that make you really think about starting this? Was that part?
It was a big point.
Did it make you sort of think?
Because we heard a lot of things. It wasn't just what happened with Sardinia, but we heard older children burying younger children in the sand for fun, but then it turned into things where
we used to bury my parents in the sand, but that was a long time ago.
No, but those younger children did have they came out struggling to breathe and things like that, and then children around our age torturing seagulls on train tracks, like poking out their eyes, things like that. And people our age watched it, and they were all messaging each other going, this is horrible, what's going on, but no one obviously had the...
And what did they do? They film it.
Yeah, they film it. Because
that's the sad part about social media. People film rather than help.
Yeah.
But it's also difficult to help if there's a group of 5 or 10 people terrorising a seagull, and you're the one person. Maybe there's multiple people thinking it, but people don't voice it.
Yeah.
Do you think alcohol plays a big part in what goes on in antisocial behaviour down here?
To an extent, but I also think alcohol is inevitable that young people are going to get involved with.
Absolutely.
So, like, talking with my parents, they all went to the pub at 14, and maybe it was even more of an issue back then. Yet crime rates were lower. So I think it does play a part, but I also think boredom for us would be the main issue.
What there was, say, when I was a kid, there was one word: respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's gone. Sometimes it's not there, is it?
Yeah, and that's
which
the thing.
I think is so sad.
When we were hearing about these events of kids our age, we were just thinking we wouldn't even think of going into a restaurant and smashing the windows or whatever, or taking a seagull and trying to throw it onto the train tracks and just see it. Yeah, so we were just thinking we couldn't really understand where it was coming from, but then again, it's probably from a place of what is there to do? Let's go and
Hence, you saying there should be more for young people to do, which actually gives young people a purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think having a purpose is really important as well, because over COVID we sort of saw depression rates rise with young people as well, and I still think we're dealing with the fallout of that. But I think the reason young people were so depressed is because there's nothing to do. You have sort of no place to go, or you don't have that community. And I think we as well see in sort of more developing countries that they have more of a community culture, and actually the happiness rates are so much higher, and I think that's really interesting because I think we have a very individualistic society, which in some ways is good. It means that we have a very wealthy economy and everything, but actually we also need to think about being in touch with each other more. We're social animals, and I think it's important that we have
offline in touch, right?
And not just
we're definitely in touch online.
But not just via the phone, but also just talking to each other, meeting new people. Because as well, you can get really stuck in your school community and with your friendship groups. And I think it's also important to be able to have a space where you can meet new people from other schools and make more friends. Because I know with me, most of my friends, I would say, come from our school, because there's just no spaces for us to meet people from other places.
And the other thing about getting together, like people go, "Oh, I've got 700 Facebook friends."
They're not real friends.
They don't actually know them, do they?
Yeah, no. They're like mutuals of a friend.
Of a friend. So, I think what you're doing is brilliant. It's so good. And what it is, it's been done by people like yourselves who are, you understand what's going on because of your age and because you're still... you're still in the school environment, so you actually probably see it from a totally different point of view to what I would see it.
And I think it's important when there are decisions made affecting a demographical group of people that demographical group of people have a voice and go, this is what works for us, or this is how our minds work, because it's...
Do you think that's lacking?
I think it is. I think it's not so much that young people don't have a lot to say. I think if they were communicated with more, you'd find that a lot of people do have a lot of opinions and a lot to say.
But I also think leading on from that, a lot of people have a voice, but it's not necessarily an informed voice when looking at politics, because they'll go, oh, let's support reform. And it's like, okay, but that's great if that's your political view, but why? And I think that's a really important question to ask. Or they'll go, I support the Green Party or Labour, and you'll be like, okay, but why? And then they'll be like, oh, because my parents support it, or because my friends support it. And me and Angel, I think we've we try to be very open-minded with politics and looking at things. But when talking to people, I think it's really nice when people have a political opinion, but that opinion's based in facts and policies and values, and not just what my friends are supporting, what my family is supporting. So I think
social group pressure as well.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of biases that come from a lot of different places, which is why schools, I think, is somewhere where we've looked that can have a neutral impact. But then again, people stray away from the topics because teachers can't have a bias when delivering it.
No.
And
otherwise it feels like you're pushing an agenda onto the students.
You have to be very careful.
And I think it's difficult as well because there's some parties that don't want political education because they are like teachers are biased. And I would really like to say, no, they're not, but they definitely are.
But I also think it does become difficult if a teacher is maybe a little bit more supporting of Labour and a kid whose family maybe votes Reform goes home and says, my school told me that Labour are the best party. That can cause a response from the parents to go like, why are they teaching you that in school? That's not an objective fact. I don't want you learning that.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult as well with mutual understanding if teachers are telling you, I believe this is right, I believe this is wrong. And it's also, you want to be able to create open discourse as well within having these political discussions. You can't have open discourse if there's only one agenda and that's seen as morally absolute.
So this is all part of your campaign. So it's got quite a few. Have you found it sort of grown in different areas that you didn't think it was going to go into?
Yeah, definitely it's grown into different areas, but I think we've been quite good at keeping the two separate and staying on top of where we're using and pushing which one.
Where do you see yourself in a year with this? Or where would you like to be in a year with this?
I think we'd like to have affected some change. So I know that I'm already seeing it within our school because the activity I had about getting students into more political education and mentoring, it's already in Year 12 mentoring, it's already in Year 9 mentoring, it's getting into Year 7, 8 and 10 soon. So I've seen it in my school. We're going to see it in other schools because we're going there. And then I think on the community piece and the crime piece, again, even if it's just that schools are now communicating community projects better to the students so that students know that, hey, Battle of the Bands is going on at the bandstand in Broadstairs, or hey, there's a Thanet Youth Forum that discusses all of these things that you might want to get involved with, because I don't think they say it, and if they did, there might be more people going to
there
these
are
things.
actually quite a lot of groups that get together down
here. We just don't know
I know
about
from
them.
doing this.
Yeah.
It's quite surprising that there is actually quite a lot that goes on, but it's not really publicised.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then
people don't know about it, they don't know where to go or why they should go.
Pie Factory Music, we went there. It has a lovely space. They've got a pool table. They've got a lot of things, and it's like, you know what? People go to Hollywood Bowl or whatever to and put in £2 to play a game of pool.
Yeah.
They've got all of the same facilities right there, and I think they would actually get. They already have a huge amount of young people.
People get to meet each other.
Yeah, exactly. People
who
that
might not ever meet.
wouldn't have met each other if they didn't go there, because it's not just within a school, within an area. It's like anyone is welcome.
But I think with our campaign, we're not expecting it to sort of change the whole, community climate.
But you're making people aware.
Yeah, it's also about sort of making people question. Maybe is there political literacy, or how can we deal with youth crime? Just making it something that people think about, especially when looking at the local communities. Maybe when we're gone from the school in sort of 5 years' time, the school will think, maybe the question of political literacy will come up again, and they'll think, oh, I remember when Amelie and Angel proposed doing presentations or something like that. But
there you go.
It's just about making small changes to make people's lives a little bit better, hopefully.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just going to change subject.
Yeah, of course.
Tell me something that you love about Broadstairs.
I love beaches.
Yeah,
It's just the beaches.
Yeah, I was going to go there. I think I love the greenery, the fact that it's not... And I do like the city as well, don't get me wrong. I like going to London, I like having the change. I also think it's a really busy environment, whereas living here, the open spaces, and I think it just feels a lot calmer. And when you go out for a walk, the air doesn't feel polluted. You don't hear like cars and everything all the time, constantly. And I just think
I've
it's
mentioned
nice.
before the fact that people talk to each other.
Yeah, and I think people come down here from London, from these other big major cities, for holidays. They have seaside homes here. People are like, they would give up a lot to live in a like nice seaside town like this, and when they earn a lot of money, what do they then do? They buy a nice house or a nice Airbnb along the coast of Broadstairs.
And what I really like as well, when we're walking sort of down the beach, you always have people smile at you, and it feels like such a sort of friendly community.
London, you bump into someone and then it's like they give you a look, and then 2 seconds later they're already all the way down the street, and it's it's so quick paced and fast moving, and it doesn't really stop.
Yeah.
No, people don't have time.
Yeah.
Whereas down here, I mean, we go out for a walk, and some days it could take us an hour and a half because we just stop and chat.
Yeah.
And that's what's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is.
It's quite nice. So, when's your next presentation?
To Thanet Youth Network, I think.
Yeah.
I think we
don't have
still
a set date on that.
Finalised date on that. We were going to do their next meeting in May, but something came up, so I think we're pushing it back.
Hopefully we'll be able to do it soon, because that has a lot of sort of community projects.
I think we're looking at June now, maybe.
And if anybody who's listening to this would like to get in touch with you both, is it okay to post your contact email?
Yeah, of course.
And then they can get in touch, because somebody might listen to this and think, I think I'd like them to come along. So if that can help in any way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to give you our email.
Yeah, no, sounds great. Well, listen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
It's such a big thing you're doing to do, to be involved in, and it is quite a big subject, isn't it? This is a little subject.
There's a lot within it.
And the other thing is, it's like a little spider's web, and you're going off in different directions.
Yeah.
So, but I wish you all the best with it, and thanks for coming in today and enlightening the people who are going to listen to this, because a lot of them may actually think, wow, why didn't I do that? But you beat me to it. So, and
thank you for having
us. Thank you so much. All right, brilliant. Thank you for listening to Broadstairs Live today. You can follow us on various social media platforms and also podcast platforms.